It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball. Oh, Holloman looks the clock, can't go for the win. Oh! The Lions go for it. The Vikings bring it. The pass is a touchdown to Gibbs. Javi Baez homered earlier. First one in the air, deep left field again. Yes, Tigers win! Robbie is unstoppable!
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. You're back from Thanksgiving. Hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, because unfortunately the Detroit Lions did not have a wonderful Thanksgiving, which we have gotten pretty used to as Lions fans. But it's a lot to talk about, and unfortunately, a lot of it is not great. So Michigan State, they fired Jonathan Smith. That was great. And then they hire Pat Fitzgerald. And, I'm in just show me mode because I've been hurt one too many times by this football team. So that's where I'm at. And obviously, we got to talk about the Lions because it is the header of the show. It is the headline of the show because things are really looking bad right now. And I don't mean that in like they just lost, so therefore the sky is falling bad. I mean that in like if you just look around at the standings, the Lions are a in the hunt team, which when you're going into the month of December as an in the hunt team coming off of a 15-2 season, that's not ideal. So, you know what? Let's just jump into it then, shall we? Lions have another rough loss at home. I hate to lose any game, but I especially hate to lose home games, and I especially hate to lose on Thanksgiving because it does just make the holiday all the more depressing. But they don't just lose to any old team. They lose to, of course, the Green Bay Packers. And I know that they gave up 31 points, but the Lions did a decent job stopping the run. They held Josh Jacobs to under 100 yards. Granted, 83 yards, not exactly nothing. But Jordan Love was having his way pretty much the whole game. 4 touchdowns, 18 for 30. I could go down the stats. I don't really have to. The Packers were getting the breaks. They were making the big plays. They got the stops, et cetera, et cetera. It was tough. Like, basically, things were going really well for Green Bay, and things were just not going well for Detroit. Offense looked out of sorts. St. Brown's hurt, and he's probably not going to play this Thursday night game. He might be back against the Rams. Hopefully, he'll be back by then. J-Mo drops, unfortunately, the biggest pass of the game, which would have been a 4th down conversion, potentially for a touchdown, which could have swung the game further in favor of the Lions. They had an opportunity starting the third quarter, down 3, to be able to at least tie the game up if they could march down the field and get a kick. Couldn't do it. And Green Bay, just stayed ahead. Green Bay for most of this game was up by double digits. Granted 10, but double digits nonetheless. And to add injury to insult, this all happened in the span between when I broadcasted last. Frank Ragnow comes out of retirement. And you're thinking, oh, okay, the Lions are going to get a boost in their offensive line. Actually, no. His hamstring is ripped into pieces. So that's not going to happen. He's done. And Terrion Arnold, done for the season. Shoulder surgery, ends his year after, frankly, when he was healthy, he was playing fine. Beginning of the season, it didn't look great, but he was starting to get better. He went into concussion protocol, then he got this shoulder injury, and now he's done. Which is really, really, really sucks. And ultimately here, I will say this. The problems with this team, I think, are very simple. But they're obviously going to be difficult to overcome. Both the offensive line and the defensive line are just not good enough. And that's not to say that they don't have good players on either side of the offensive line. Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell. I know that Graham Glasgow is not exactly a fan favorite, but outside of the center position, he'd been pretty good for us. Christian Mahogany, when he is healthy, was pretty good for us. On the defensive line, obviously Aiden Hutchinson goes without saying. He's a very good player, despite the fact that the sack totals this year have been, frankly, pretty disappointing. But Aleem McNeil is a very good player. Unfortunately, you're out Levi Onwuzurike, who has really struggled to stay healthy his entire time as a Lion. And DJ Reader is an older, but a mostly consistent player up the middle. You got guys, but they're just not put in the right situation, in my experience. That's not to say that you shouldn't get better, because that is what I'm ultimately going to say, is that you need to go out, Brad Holmes, regardless of how the season ends, whether the Lions make the playoffs, miss the playoffs, win the Super Bowl, whatever. I guess if they win the Super Bowl, they can do whatever they want. Regardless of how the season ends, the trenches are priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, a million. They should be the first thing that I should hear in the offseason is, even before potentially free agency opens, is that the Lions are interested in trading for a defensive lineman or interested in trading for an offensive lineman. Straight up. And I know that Brad Holmes this offseason was controversial, and I was willing to defend it, but obviously I was defending it to the point that it would have success. And as far as the moves that were made or weren't made, we didn't go out and upgrade the defensive line to an extreme extent. We did get Roy Lopez, who has been decent, but he's a depth piece, not exactly a world breaker. We didn't really acknowledge the loss of Kevin Zeitler and Frank Ragnow in the offensive line, and that, I think, has significantly hurt this offense, regardless of the scheme, whether it was John Morton or Dan Campbell calling plays. And look, I'm not saying that they have to go out and trade 3 first-round picks for Max Crosby. They don't have to do that necessarily. Some of it, I'm sure, will come from internal development. We drafted Tyleik Williams for a reason, right? Presumably, he's going to be your DJ Reader replacement, and if he can develop to be a real good nose tackle, you're going to have a 1-2 punch of him and McNeil up the middle. That's going to be tough to beat. On the offensive line perspective, look, there's a reason, once again, that we drafted Tate Ratledge. There's a reason we drafted Christian Mahogany. There are guys that internally can get better. It's just not necessarily going to be this year. But that is not an excuse to say we're good. And I know that phrasing and that quote from Dan Campbell has been used put in a negative light, but look, you can't just say, especially if this season really unwinds and they miss the playoffs or they get blown out in the first round or whatever ends up happening, you can't just say we're good as far as the trenches go. You just can't. That would be malpractice. With all of that being said, this Thursday night, you got an opportunity to swing yourself right back into this. You had a rough month of November. You're allowed to have a rough night in the office. You've had several of those to this point. But the season doesn't end in November. It ends in January. So if you can swing yourself back to positive winning ways, obviously winning solves all problems. And the Cowboys, as hot as they are a team that you can beat. But this isn't, you're not going up against the 85 Bears. You're not going up against this unbeatable, the 2008 New England Patriots. You're going up against a Cowboys team that is playing with house money a little bit, that bought at the trade deadline. They got Quinnen Williams, but they're still, I think, a questionable unit. Even beating the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, I don't think they look like total world beaters. And they're going in with a coach in his first year. So you have a lot of things that are going your way. It's at home. So once again, that should be an advantage for you. And I don't know what the spread is. I'm assuming the Lions are favored. But this game, to me, is a must-win. If you lose this game, you will basically have to run the table just to make the playoffs. And to be perfectly honest with you guys, I don't like their odds of running the table with 2 division games and a game on the road against the Los Angeles Rams. I just don't like that. That is not an easy run the table schedule, especially with one of those division games being on short notice, as it's a Thursday game on Christmas. Merry Christmas. So, but here's the thing. Regardless, and this is my final thoughts here, regardless of injuries, regardless of losing your coordinators, regardless of any of that, if you go from back-to-back division titles to, 15-2, best franchise record ever in a single season, highest scoring offense, not a great defense, but it was riddled by injuries, but you were finding ways to win games, undefeated on the road, all that shebang. You simply put cannot go from that quality of team to missing the playoffs. You just can't. And I think Brad Holmes, everybody from ownership, from Sheila Ford to Brad Holmes to Campbell to the players on the field, if that is the result of this season, it is an utter and abject failure. Completely. No excuses. And they will have to acknowledge that and sit with that for months. Half a year to be exact. About 6 months to be exact. Until they can bring this thing back. Get the ship back in the right direction. And look, the Eagles went through this a couple of years ago. They lost their coordinators. They seemed like they were getting on a hot start. They started to fall apart. They made the playoffs. They get blown out in the wild card round. Guess what happened next year? They won the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that's you, but I am saying it could be you. Is that fair? I think that's fair. So I'm really just hoping that we do win on Thursday. I'm not convinced right now that this is a Super Bowl team because I just don't think you have the power in the trenches to be able to compete with teams like the Eagles or even the Rams, to be perfectly honest with you. But we'll get to that in a little bit because there's a lot of questions I have about the NFL and just how confusing it is this year. But you win on Thursday, you're right back in. And I said this was a 3-game stretch, your 3-game homestand. If you can get 2 out of those 3, you're feeling pretty good. If you can get 3 out of those 3, then that's great. Obviously, you're not going to get 3 out of those 3. But if you could get this win against Dallas, you'll have a long break going into that LA Ram game. And that could be good for getting St. Brown healthy. That could be good for hopefully Graham Glasgow was back, because if you're going to put in Tristan Colon again, that could be dangerous. Jared Goff might be dead by then. So very uplifting stuff, I know. So this is what happens when you lose on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope everybody had a great holiday. All right. Let's take a look. Bacon Bombs, welcome to the chat. Only reason the defense looked good last year is our offense forced so many teams to pass more. I don't know if the defensive line did look that good last year. I know obviously they went out and got Zadarius Smith, and that was because they needed an actual pass rusher. But yes, teams did have to pass a lot more on us. But we were also dealing with teams that we were blowing out very consistently. I mean, we played the Titans, the Jaguars. This is not to say that the 15-2 was somehow fake, as some of these, I just think, annoying, stupid pundits will say. It's not fake. It's hard to go 15-2. I don't care who you play. All right. You still went 15-2, and you did it with a very injured defense, and going undefeated on the road. So anyway. But yeah, I mean, obviously, our defense was not ranked very high last year, especially down the stretch when, basically the entire secondary was getting hurt. And this is another thing that I don't usually like to say this because I have no idea what's going on. These things are usually fluke, or at the very least uncontrollable. But we're going on now 3 years, roughly, where we've lost massive amounts of players throughout the year due to injury. I don't know that it's conditioning or the training staff or what have you. I don't know that, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't in 2023, right? There's a reason Kindle Vildor was in that game against the 49ers, right? Our whole secondary was destroyed. Our defense was hurt. Last year, it speaks for itself. Hutchinson goes down. McNeil goes down. Oh my gosh, what's the guy's name? Guy we traded from the Bucks. Can't think of his name. The cornerback. Carlton Davis went down. Although, granted, he already had an injury history. And this could be a combination of multiple things. You have Brad Holmes seemingly loving these guys who come off of injuries. And I say that as someone who's obviously a big fan of Brad Holmes. I don't think anyone really, frankly, should not be a fan of Brad Holmes, just given the way the team has played the last 3 years, obviously this year, notwithstanding, depending on the end result. But yeah, this has been a theme of his, which is that he'll draft or otherwise sign, granted to short-term deals, guys who have a history of not playing all 17 games. And whether it's Carlton Davis or Marcus Davenport or Emmanuel Mosley, trying to think of it. Mostly it was on defense. I don't know what the deal is. Like Levi Onwuzurike was another one that he drafted. You know, I can imagine if you really went and were particular with every GM, you'd probably find maybe not something exactly similar, but you'd probably find similar sorts of things. Like, why did you bring in this guy? Why did you bring in this guy? You know, what's the point of that? Obviously, I'm just a Lions fan, so I don't track every single move that's made by every other team. But this is a factor. And, you know, at some point, I am willing to trust Brad Holmes' judgment on players because, I mean, largely it's not the quality of player. Like he's largely not signing bad players. He's just signing players or bringing in players that are not there, like that don't play. Marcus Davenport is a fine enough player when he plays. Now, obviously, last week was just depressing. I didn't even know if he was playing, to be honest with you. But he doesn't play. That's the thing. So, but anyway, that's that. Look, if they win on Thursday, we'll be right back in it, and people will be hyped. They'll say we're back because look, the thing is, I don't want to. If we win on Thursday, what I don't want to hear is actually the Cowboys are just terrible because clearly they're not actually as terrible as many would have thought at the beginning of the year, myself included. They're at least a pretty solid team, and they're playing really well right now. So it would be a big win for the Lions to get. I think of maybe, and this is maybe not exactly a perfect comparison, maybe that game in 2023 against the Broncos, where I believe it was Saturday night, prime time on NFL Network. The Broncos were kind of a rising team to that point. They were playing pretty well. They might have made the playoffs. Russell Wilson, his final year in Denver, and the Lions just rolled them. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. But I certainly would like if that happened. that would be good. They did roll the Cowboys last year on the road, but obviously very different team. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess final thoughts here on the Lions. We're going to need more from our stars. You know, we're going to need more from the guys, particularly that have gotten signed recently. I'm going to need more from Aiden Hutchinson. I'm going to need more from Jameson Williams. You know, like Penei Sewell. He's a real good player. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm going to need a lot from him. I'm going to need him to do a lot more in pass protection and help this offensive line basically stay alive. You know, like Jared Goff is not going to be able to play the position well if he's got, you know, a second and a half to go through his reads. And that's not Jared Goff. That's any quarterback is going to be like that. You know, you can make any quarterback look like, you know, Peyton Manning if you give him enough time. And unfortunately, the Lions defensive line has done that last three or 4 weeks. So, all right. That's enough depression, guys. We got to move on. Michigan State right now in a bout with Iowa, 9-7. Spartans on top. So that's exciting. They better not lose to Iowa. All right. They've just had crazy big wins. They had a big win against North Carolina on Thanksgiving. What I do not want to see is them lose to Iowa. And now it's tied 9-9. Okay. Wonderful. All right. I already said we're not doing depression anymore. Okay. We're moving on. All right. Okay. So I wanted to do this segment for a while, but I never really had the opportunity because, I mean, at any given week, it can change as to how predictable this can be, but I just have to ask this. We have entered the month of December. Okay, we've already got, last night we had a December game. We're into the final stretch here of the regular season. I do not know who's good. Do you know who's good? Truly. Like, I'm not. Do you know who's good? Like, do you think some teams are good, or do you know who's good? Because I don't know who's good, and I don't know that anybody knows who's good. Okay, so let me just in this week alone, let me just paint you a picture. Okay, we had the Bears beating the Eagles on Black Friday on the road. We had the Cowboys and Bengals, two teams who seemingly were out of the playoff run, and I think the Bengals still are, get wins on Thanksgiving. The Rams finding a way to lose to the Carolina Panthers. And then the Broncos just barely sneaking a win away from the Washington Commanders with Marcus Mariota as their quarterback. With their defense, they just managed to sneak through a win. This whole season has been this. There's even more. The Colts, who at one point were seen as the AFC Super Bowl favorites, they lose a game to the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud coming back. Like the Bills, who were kind of struggling, and even in this game kind of struggled, they managed to get a blowout win over the Steelers. I don't know who's good. I don't know who's good. Truly. Because any time that I think a team is good, they do something stupid, basically. I think it was last week I was talking about how I think the Rams are probably the best team in the NFC. And then what do? They lose to the Panthers. I'm like, well, what the heck? It would be one thing if the Rams lost a division game. If they lost to the 49ers, or if they lost to the Seahawks. I can understand that. Or if they lost to another, big time team. If they lost to the Buccaneers, I could understand that. But to the Panthers? The Panthers? It's like we got all these teams who will lose games inexplicably to the point where genuinely, I don't know who's good. You bring up the Patriots. That's probably the best shot. But then I look at their schedule and their quality of wins, and they've obviously got a lot of wins because they're 11-2, or they've got a lot of quality wins, I should say, since they're 11-2. Or rather, I should say they've got a lot of wins, but they don't necessarily have a lot of quality wins. Like, at the Bills is probably their best win. But then again, are the Bills good? I don't know. At the Giants, they blew them out. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. They get a win at Tampa Bay a couple of weeks ago, but then they played the Bengals really close. You look at their schedule. Look, they have, the rest of their way. They got the Bills at home. They got the Ravens on the road, the Jets on the road, and the Dolphins at home. So, 3 out of their final 4 games are division games, and those are usually tougher. But obviously, the later down the year they are, the more likely you're going to have starters benched, etc. But I'm just sitting here like they've certainly feasted on their competition. They've taken control of that division. They are almost certainly going to win the AFC East title. But rookie quarterback going into the playoffs for the first time, and I'm not convinced that Drake May is just going to go into the playoffs against presumably a real good team, whether he's the number 1 seed or not, and just ball out. I don't know. I don't look at them and I feel super confident in their ability. They've been consistent in winning games. What they haven't had is that game where I was just like, whoa, they really announced themselves. They've had games where it's like, yeah, they're the better team. They win. Like that, I don't know. Am I just a hater? I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just telling you how I feel. I'm really interested to see how the Bears, me too, because I still don't believe in the Bears. I don't care that they beat the Eagles. I don't care who they beat. This Bears team is like dancing through raindrops. They're going to play on the Packers this Sunday. And honestly, I could see them winning. But again, it's like, what are these teams? Like, this is perfect. Bears, Bills, Packers, Eagles, all weird. They could be good. They could just be overachieving. And that's my point. This is the weirdest NFL season. I've never, to my memory, had an NFL season where by December, I didn't know who was good. I can't remember. Can anyone else remember a season like this? It certainly wasn't this way last year. By December, everybody knew the Lions were very good, despite the injuries. Or the Chiefs. Well, maybe the Chiefs people were kind of calling them fraudulent a little bit. The Eagles people were certainly singing the praises of. Teams like the Rams, they were singing the praises of. At the very least, you knew at least a couple of teams that were good or very good. This year, I'm going up and down the standings. I mean, the AFC North is led by the 6-6 Baltimore Ravens, but there's something in my bones that says there's no way that the Ravens are this bad, but they've been playing this bad. Even the AFC South. Don't look now, but the AFC South is currently led by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Huh? If you would have told me 2 months ago that the Jaguars were going to be in first place going into the month of December, I would have told you were crazy. But here they are in first place, potentially being able to host a playoff game. The Broncos are 10-2, and I'm not convinced that they can score points. Like, if you match the Broncos up against, let me just take a look at the standings again. If you match the Broncos up in the playoffs against the Bills, am I really going to take the Broncos confidently? I don't know if I will. Like, their defense is elite. It's fantastic. But you got to score points, and they have shown an inability to do that. The Rams are good. I agree, but they're still, it's like I guess maybe it's any given Sunday, but that's just the product of it is. But they're not, their division isn't secured. Obviously, they got to win over the Seahawks, but if they drop a couple of games here, Seattle could just retake it on their own, I believe. Obviously, the Seattle's not in total control, but I guess, again, what I'm really getting at here in my crazy mind right now is that I don't know who's good. Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't know. Rams are still good. Stafford had a bad game. The year the Rams won the Super Bowl, they lost every game in November. I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. That actually makes me feel a little bit better about the Lions. Not that they're going to just do what the Rams did, but just, we don't know how the season ends until the season ends, is, I guess, the point I'm trying to make. Seattle's the second best team in the NFC, and yet, I'm not trying to be rude, okay? I'm not trying to be provocative. Does Seattle truly scare you? Like, do we truly think Seattle, if Seattle is up against Philly, well, actually, that might not be a great example, because Philly, I don't know. I guess that's my point. Even when I match them up against other teams, I don't know. And, I guess credit to the NFL, because it's a good product, and I have no inclination as to what could happen. Like, there's this weird feeling that I have. I mean, right now, the Carolina Panthers, don't look now, could win the NFC South. And frankly, if I want to be bold, I would say they will. Because the Buccaneers are good, but they're starting to fall away. All the teams in the NFC South have a negative point differential, but one of them is going to make the playoffs. I don't know who it is. Yeah, right. This is my sentiment. Seattle scares me, but Darnold does not. And they are going to go as far as the ginger quarterback will take them. And as we saw last year, you will live by the ginger or you will die by the ginger. And they died by the ginger. The parity is insane this year. The Lions could go undefeated the rest of the year, or we go 2-3 and split. Yes, absolutely. Like, we could just randomly go on a run here in December, end up winning the NFC North, being the number 2. I don't think we can be the number 1 seed. I actually don't even know. Maybe we could be the number 1 seed. If we were on the table, is it still an option? I guess if we go 12-5, I guess we could. It's still open, technically. Like, again, I'm not saying that it's likely, but I'm all right, listen. We already did the Lions segment. We're not talking about the Lions anymore. That was depressing. We're not doing that anymore. All right. I'm on to Dallas right now. I'm on to the Cowboys. Hate the Cowboys. Anyway. I mean, even the Cowboys. Let's talk about the Cowboys. Like, they have a good shot at making the playoffs. Especially if they beat the Lions on Thursday. They got a shot here. Like, I don't know, man. Like, this is the other thing. Okay, right now the Bears are the number 1 seed. Does anyone truly believe they are the number 1 team in the NFC? Do not lie to me, Bears fan. If Pope Leo called in and said he believed, I would say, Papa Leone, with all due respect to your office, sir, I believe you are wrong. That is what I would say. I don't believe in any of these teams. And I guess this is, look, again, I give credit to the NFL. This has been an incredibly interesting and fun season as far as parity goes, because I don't know who's winning the Super Bowl. Any of the teams that I just named, the Patriots, the Bills, not the Ravens, the Broncos, the Eagles, the Cowboys, heck, the Bears, Packers, or Lions, the Rams, the Seahawks, any one of those teams in my mind can win the Super Bowl. But I don't think I can remember the last time that going into the month of December where I could say I truly don't know who's like really good. Because the closest I could get is maybe the Rams. But once again, very bad loss to the Panthers. Granted, on the road. Where is Darius Slay signing? I don't know, the retirement home? He's like 100 years old. I can see them losing 2 games the rest of the year. Yeah, I can see that too. Are you talking Lions, I assume? Yeah, I can see them losing 2 games, going 10-7, and then hoping that other teams help them to get into the playoffs. I could definitely see that. I mean, look, going into the year, I said they were probably a 12-5 team, which is still technically speaking on the table, but obviously they'd have to run the table. So, Bears, actually. You're saying Bears losing just 2 games. I mean, if the Bears go 12-5, if the Bears win that division, I'm going to throw up. The Bears do not deserve to win this division. I hate the Bears. I hate the Bears. I hate the Packers. The Vikings, I just kind of feel sorry about. Splitting the Packers series and losing to us. Wouldn't it be the weirdest ending if the Bears end up winning the division, but we sweep them? Wouldn't that be weird? Like, we would have split with the Vikings, because I refuse to believe that we're going to lose. I can't believe we lost to the Vikings the first time, man. We're moving on. Okay, we're moving on. We're not talking about it, all right? We're not talking about it. I'd say that's a very bad loss to lose to that Panthers team, Bacon Bombs. I mean, they blew that game. Like, that's a game they had the lead in the fourth quarter, and they blow it on those big plays. You can't have those kind of big plays, even on 4th down touchdowns. Like, you know, I'm not saying they got utterly dominated, but you don't lose that game. And Stafford, I believe, had a couple of picks in that game. Like, I mean, yeah, they lost by 3, but like, it was not a good win. It was not a good loss. Or there's no such thing as a good loss. It was not. I would say that's a pretty bad loss. Like, you can't blow a game like that. I think we can agree on that. You can't blow a game like that. Anyway. Although that probably does help solidify Drake May's case to win the MVP this year. So I was thinking about this because we had this conversation last week, Bacon Bombs. If Stafford neither wins the MVP nor the Super Bowl this year, is he a Hall of Famer? I'm just asking the questions. I mean, yeah, like that's bad, but I think like I guess I'm talking more about the nature of the loss. They had the lead late in the fourth quarter. You can't give up those kind of big time plays. Okay. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah, like if you get blown out, that's obviously a very bad loss. But if you were never in the game, then whatever, you can get over it a little bit better in a weird way. But yeah, like to go from you're winning, feeling good, and then you give up these massive plays at the very last few minutes, including obviously the pick 6. You can't have it. But I think he should be. His career stats will be top 10 when all is said and done, even without the MVP or the extra Super Bowl win. Because my whole thing is, I think it'd be a hard. I mean, he's probably gonna be all pro this year regardless. But I think it'd be a hard case to make, in my mind. And I'm more critical of who should be in the Hall of Fame and who shouldn't. Now he probably will make it just based on some of the other guys that are in it, namely, not Fran Tarkenton. What's the guy's name from the Bills? And Troy Aikman is another one who got in because he's on the Cowboys. But I mean, ultimately, I'm just super strict about Hall of Fame. The best Hall of Fame is the Baseball Hall of Fame because they're the most strict. That is my belief. But anyway, why is my Peacock feed like super buffery and ugly right now? Hold on, just gonna try to back out and go back in, see what that does. Okay, it's going into an ad. Wonderful. Anyway, I'm just curious because, like, in my mind, if he doesn't get either the MVP or the Super Bowl this year, assuming he has more years in front of him, which I think he probably has at least one more year after this, like, I don't know that we can just be like, oh yeah, he's a Hall of Famer if he retires right now. It's like, oh, two Pro Bowls in his whole career, never an MVP. Obviously, he won the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, again, I'm the harsh one. I'm willing to go out on a limb and say I am more willing to be from as far as how the Hall of Fame rules go. Then, yeah, like he'll probably get in regardless of what I'm saying. But as far as Mike's ideal Hall of Fame rules, I don't think he would get in. Is that fair? And that's not because I hate Stafford. It's because I'm just more strict, I guess. If he gets the MVP, Super Bowl, and Super Bowl MVP, yeah, then he's going to be a first ballot at that point. Yeah, for sure. No doubt about that. And he would deserve it at that point. I mean, like, to have the kind of swan song ending to his career in LA, obviously with all those bad Lions teams that he played on, yeah, absolutely. At that point, he would deserve it. There would be no question. Certainly no question for me. But anyway. Now Michigan State is starting to put it on the Hawkeyes 27-14, although Iowa just got a big 3 to cut the lead to 13. So, all right. That's a lot of NFL that we just talked about. So I wanted to move on because I am wearing my Michigan State Sparty hat. And look, MSU football ended the season with a win in Ford Field. Yay! But better news, Jonathan Smith's got fired. Yay! We're very happy. I was very happy, actually. I was like, yes, they actually did it. They fired the coach after 2 years. That's crazy. Who are they going to hire? What? What did you just say? They're hiring Pat Fitzgerald. Oh, no. Oh, no. Where's the monkey? Hold on.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Now, okay. Here's what I'll say, because I know there's going to be some people who say, actually, Pat Fitzgerald really did well in Northwestern. Okay. Forget about that for a second. Let's first talk about Jonathan Smith. It was a complete failure on every level. Okay. There was no redeeming factor. So anybody who is on the let Smith cook train, which I think is basically nobody at this point, it was a complete and abject failure in every way. Couldn't recruit. Players did not get better under him. There was nothing about this team that showed any sign of life or strength. There was just nothing. It was bad. Whether it was just that he was a bad fit or that he's just really not that good of a coach, I don't really know. He had some success at Oregon State, so I suspect that maybe it just wasn't a good fit. It is what it is. He's gone. Pat Fitzgerald, on the other hand, I will just say this. I'm going to put myself on the spot. I think this is a stupid hire that's probably going to blow up in MSU's face. And I understand, because I'm going to let me pull up Pat Fitzgerald. Oh, okay, I wasn't even typing. Pat Fitzgerald coaching record. I'm going to pull it up because I don't want people to accuse me of not knowing ball or whatever. He was the head coach of Northwestern for a very long time, from 2006 to 2022. And that includes, in 2020, a Citrus Bowl win, 2018, a Holiday Bowl win, 2017, a Music City Bowl win, a Pinstripe Bowl win in 2016. Then he lost in the Outback Bowl in 2015, won in the Gator Bowl in 2012. I know I'm listing bowl games, but this is, pre-college football playoff at this point, so that's pretty much the only marker of success. Lost in the Meineke Car Care Bowl of Texas, 2011. Lost in the Ticket City Bowl, Outback Bowl, Alamo Bowl in 2008 to 2009 to 2010. And overall had a coaching record of 110 and 101 with Northwestern over a decade and a half as their coach. I will just point out that his most successful seasons were his 10-win seasons. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that winning 10 games with Northwestern is somehow easy. It's not. And it's actually fairly impressive that he got 3 10-win seasons with Northwestern. One problem, though, he got those 3 10-win seasons in 2012, 2015, and 2017. So multiple years apart. And in betwixt those seasons, he had some stinkers of 5-7, 5-7, 7-6. And then after his big 10-win season in 2017, he went on and had a 9-win season in 2018, a 3-win season in 2019, then a 7-win season in 2020, but it was 2020. They only played 9 games. Then he went 3-9 in 21 and famously went 1-11 and then was fired in part due to his, let's just say lack of organizational awareness, namely the millions of dollars in settlement or the settlements that he had. I don't know if it was millions of dollars, but the unfortunate, hazing that was going on basically under his watch. I know I've pointed out that Michigan State football hit rock bottom with Jonathan Smith, but I think that with this hire, if this does not work, Michigan State will have developed new rules of physics to where they're able to go beyond rock bottom, like beyond Super Saiyan, like Goku going Super Saiyan 3, basically, like beyond rock bottom to some sort of alternative dimension where you can just continually go bottomer, like they're in a black hole, like it's the point of no return in the black hole that is Michigan State football. And furthermore, anybody pointing out the fact that he was winning at Northwestern should also point out the fact that his winning subsequently stopped right as college football has entered its modern era with transfer portal and NIL and all of that. Now, granted, Northwestern does not have the kinds of resources that Michigan State presumably could, in theory, develop. But still, it's just, when I heard this hire, I thought, that was it was an exasperated sigh. It was okay, great. The only nice thing I can really say is that he's familiar with the Big Ten. And he's familiar with Michigan State. Because obviously he had to play Michigan State on a multitude of occasions. But this is just the exact kind of hire that I think a team that is so desperate for some sort of identity, even to just be a bowl team, to be a team that consistently will get you 6+ wins. Maybe you'll swing through and get a 10-win season every now and again, but you're never really going to be threatening for the real goal, which is, of course, a national championship. And I don't want to hear that Michigan State is somehow, I don't know, what's the word, that we should just forget about national championships. I'm not in the business of forgetting about the only thing that matters right now in college football, which is those national championships. I understand that Michigan State has not won a national championship in a very long time. I understand that Michigan State largely has not been good at football for a very long time. But that does not mean that I have to lower my standard because my school decided they want to lower it. I don't care what they want to do. If they choose to go with Pat Fitzgerald as they have chosen to do, okay, fine. I will not really enjoy going 7-5 every year. I will not really enjoy the occasional 9-3 season. Okay, I just won't. I won't have fun with it. It'll get old very quickly. It might be fun if he does it in his first year, because I just haven't seen any success with Michigan State football since 2021. But I want a national championship. I want a playoff run. I want Big Ten championships. I don't want this, mealy-mouthed, average, just go along to get along football team that is totally bland. The funny thing about this is, there could not be any more of a difference in the quality that the college basketball team is willing to put up with versus the quality that the college football team is willing to put up with. Right now, I'm watching Michigan State blow the doors off of Iowa. And I hope this comment doesn't age poorly because I think they're going to win this game. They're currently up by 12 late in the first quarter or the first half. Okay? Like, the basketball team, for a brief stint from about 2020 to about last year, was mediocre. But they were making the tournament. They even made the Elite Eight. And I was pissed. I said this is unacceptable. Michigan State needs to be better than that. They need to be winning Big Ten titles. They need to be a top 5 team consistently. And what do you know? Tom Izzo starts recruiting as he does. He starts developing players as he does. He even grabs some guys out of the transfer portal, as much as he does not like that situation. And the standard for Michigan State basketball is Big Ten titles and national championships. The standard for Michigan State football is, can we win 6 games? I don't understand why we choose to operate in this way. But there's a couple of comments I want to point out just before we end the segment because you pointed them out here, Mr. X. Is the hire as stupid if the rumors are true that one of our boosters pledged $400 million if we hired him? It won't necessarily be as stupid, but it will probably still be stupid. Because ultimately, you can pay a lot of money, but money doesn't fix stupid. I guess that's my point. Now, if it is true, it could be a part of the massive $1 billion. Now, yeah, I've heard about this. The Spartan or Save Sparta, something like that, where they're going to invest in fixing the football stadium and various athletic facilities. All well and good. All perfectly fine with. They should invest in their athletic department and especially in their football program if they want to be good, because that's just what you have to do. But once again, the standard for Michigan State basketball is Big Ten titles and national championships. Those 2 things. If you're not winning the Big Ten, and if you're not competing for a national championship, nobody cares. And people are pissed. It doesn't matter if you're an Elite 8 team. It doesn't matter if you're in second place in the Big Ten. It doesn't matter if you have guys going to the NBA. It doesn't matter. I want to see championship. I want to see something in the rafters. For Michigan State football, I don't know what the standard is. And I hope that Pat Fitzgerald comes in and he's, the next coming of D'Antonio, and he just fits the culture of Michigan State. He gets it. He was underutilized in Northwestern. He's obviously got a lot of experience coaching, but I just don't buy it. In my mind, this feels like a young man's game at this point. I mean, I think of Indiana, even Ryan Day. Those are the guys currently running the Big Ten, right? It's Signetti and it's everybody else. It's the guys who know how to utilize the transfer portal. It's the guys who's got big NIL packages. Those are the guys running the college football world. Pat Fitzgerald, he hadn't coached in 3 years, and his last year was terrible. So this just feels like it will blow up in our face. I really hope it doesn't. I really, really hope it doesn't. But I've grown quite cynical to Michigan State football, if you can't already tell. So, fun stuff. At least Michigan State is up big. 35-21 at the half. Love that. Love that. Got to win your conference games, guys. Got to win the conference games. It's very important. Oh, the Red Wings are up 2-0 against the Bruins. Sider's got a goal. Is that after the first period? Yep. 2-0 over the Bruins. They better start winning, man. I was going to put a segment on the Red Wings today, but it actually might work out that I don't because they're winning right now. It's about to be a very negative segment. And also, Michigan State fired their head coach, and that pretty much took over. So, all right. So, with that, though, you guys already know what time it is. It is indeed, indubitably, it is time for the picks. All right. I volume should be good. All right. I believe this is the last week for buys. So, I think there might, I don't think there's a week 15 buy, right? Anyway. Thursday Night Football. Cowboys coming to Detroit, taking on the Lions. Seth, he's taking the Lions. You know what? I do like the Lions coming off of a loss under Dan Campbell. Obviously, last week the couple of weeks ago against the Giants, they got the win, but it was well earned nonetheless. I want to believe until I can't believe anymore, basically. So give me the Lions, please don't. Just give me more. I need it. I need a win. Seahawks taking on the Falcons. It's the battle of the birds. Seth is taking the Seahawks. Yeah, I'll take the ginger quarterback in this case over Kirko, whom I love, but unfortunately is very cooked. Raheem Morris needs to be fired. I don't know why he is employed. I don't know what he does. I don't know how a team with that many weapons on offense is this inept. It just doesn't make any sense. Give me the Seahawks. Steelers at the Ravens, little divisional matchup. Seth is taking the Ravens in this one. I am going to concur because this just feels like the most painful ending for Steelers fans, which is that the Ravens get off to that awful start, but then they end up just winning the division anyway and hosting a home playoff game. That would just be the funny ending, and I am rooting for the funny ending. So give me the Ravens in this one. And then we have, quite possibly, the worst matchup in modern American sports. The Tennessee Titans heading to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Seth is taking the Browns. I will only take the Browns on the ground that the Browns have a very good defense. This will be a 3-0 win. If that. Maybe they'll tie 0-0. These are two of the worst teams ever in the NFL. I mean, the Browns, they got injuries and they don't have a quarterback. The Titans are just, if they are one Arizona choke job away from being a winless team right now. So give me the Titans, or give me the Browns. Colts at the Jaguars. Seth is taking the Colts. No. I'm taking the Jags. This feels like the collapse. The Danny Dimes, Danny Nichols has made an appearance. I'm not a believer in the Jones experience. They went all in for Sauce Gardner, and it's not the slots are not lining up right now. Give me the Jags. Commanders at the Vikings. Seth is taking the Commanders. This is also a terrible game. Wow. I don't know who to take. Who the heck do I? Oh, gosh. Oh, jeez. I'll take the Commanders, I guess. Deebo Samuel is good. Marcus Mariota is probably better than Bob Habadia or whoever they have. Who did the Vikings have as their quarterback? Is it 9? Was 9? Is he coming back? JJ McCarthy. Hard to play the position when you don't know the plays of the defense are running, JJ. I've heard. Anyway, Dolphins at the Jets. Oh my gosh, this is a terrible slate. Who made this? This is awful. So I'm thinking the Dolphins here. I'm gonna take the Jets. Dolphins don't play well in the cold. Jets, maybe they got something going. I don't know. They somehow managed to beat the Falcons last week. I don't know how they did it, but they did. Tyrod Taylor and the boys. That's my pick. Saints at the Buccaneers. Yeah, give me the Buccaneers. I still don't even know what is good about the Saints. They are also a team that probably should be winless. But it is what it is. They've managed to win a game somehow. So give me the Bucs. Bengals at the Bills. Yeah, give me the Bills. The Bengals defense is still terrible. Joe Burrow is back, though. So that offense was humming a little bit against the Ravens. I do feel like this is going to be a snapback to reality moment. I think it could potentially be a high-scoring game because the Bills' defense is awful. But I feel like Josh Allen, he's going to go for it. Give me the Bills. Broncos at the Broncos. The Raiders are an offense to the game of football. This is a terrible slate, by the way. I'm sorry to anybody who is a fan of bad teams. This is a terrible slate. I can't believe that this is the games that they're putting on the first Sunday in December. That's terrible. Absolutely unforgivable, NFL. Broncos are going to roll. I mean, they didn't roll the last time they played, but the Raiders are just so bad. So, yeah, no, I'm not taking the Raiders ever, I don't think. Bears at the Packers. Seth is taking the Packers. Look, I have to believe. I have to believe that the Packers are going to win this game. There is no world in which the Bears are winning this division. I refuse, and if they do, I will personally make a phone call to Pope Leo XIV. I will call him right now on my cellular telephone and tell him his Chicago Bears are not winning the NFC North. I refuse. I will not live in that world. Rams at the Cardinals. We already know who I'm taking. It's the Rams because I had made a decision earlier in the year. I am never taking the Cardinals. So give me the Rams. This feels like a bounce back game. It is on the road. It is a divisional opponent. So those games can always be interesting. Cardinals are pretty much out of it if they aren't outright out of it. It would be kind of funny if the Rams do lose this game because that would be, assuming the Lions win, you could maybe say, well, the Rams are on a downswing here. Maybe the Lions can catch them while they're down. That would be nice, but I still think the Rams are going to win. Then we got Sunday Night Football. Texans at the Chiefs. Ew, yuck, gross. I'm going to vomit on the screen, all over the floor. It's going to be bad. You know what? Seth is taking the Chiefs. I'm taking the Texans. I'm going all in here. This is my all-in push to try to reclaim the lead in the picks right now. I do not believe in this Chiefs team. They have talent. Obviously, they have Rashee Rice, and Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. But that Texans defense is good enough to keep them in this game for just a little bit, just enough time to where they can just sneak by and get an ugly win. And the Chiefs, luck has not gone their way. It's not working out. Travis needs to retire and get married to Taylor. Just stop the nonsense. Stop it all. Give me the Texans. Fun times. And then finally, Monday Night Football. Eagles at the Chargers. Seth is taking his beloved Chargers, but I'm sorry, Seth. I have to take the Birds. That defensive line is going to murder Justin Herbert. Didn't he already? I think Justin Herbert's already hurt. I could be wrong about that. Or maybe I read that wrong. If Justin Herbert is playing, he's going to be dead by the end of this game. Because I don't care that this is on the road. It's going to be basically a neutral site game. I think the Eagles, unfortunately for Seth's Chargers, I think they're going to get a win. They're going to bounce back after a tough Friday afternoon loss. Give me the Eagles. His left hand is broken. Well, good thing he's not a lefty, so he can still play though, right? Can he can play with a broken left hand? No way. I don't know. Either way, give me the Eagles. All right, rounding it out. Cowboys, Lions. We are both taking the Lions. Seahawks, Falcons. We are both taking the Seahawks. Steelers, Ravens. We are both taking the Ravens. Titans, Browns. We are both taking the Browns. Colts, Jaguars. I am taking the Jaguars. Seth is taking the Colts. Commanders, Vikings. We are both taking the Commanders. Dolphins, Jets. I am taking the Jets. Seth is taking the Dolphins. Saints, Buccaneers. We are both taking the Buccaneers. Bengals, Bills. We are both taking the Bills. Broncos, Raiders. We are both taking the Broncos. Bears, Packers. We are both taking the Packers. Rams, Cardinals. We are both taking the Rams. Texans, Chiefs. I am taking the Texans. Seth is taking the Chiefs. And Eagles, Chargers. I am taking the Eagles, and Seth is taking the Chargers. And those are your NFL Week 14 picks. He had surgery on him for Monday and will likely play next. That's crazy. He's gonna what is he gonna have a cast on his hand? How's he gonna take snaps? Isn't that gonna hurt? He got like an oven mitt? That's crazy. That's crazy, man. I sprained my ankle. I couldn't walk. How are these players playing with broken hands? Absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Do not understand it. I simply do not understand it. All right. That's the show. So, a little bit of a show look ahead. We will be live this Thursday night for the Lions-Cowboys game. And please just don't let us down. Just don't. I can't take this. Don't let us lose to the Cowboys on national television. Well, streaming, not television. I can't. I need a Lions win for my soul. I need to just stay alive for the rest of the calendar year at least. That's what I need. If we lose in the playoffs, I'll be sad, but I don't want to not make the playoffs. That's the worst. So anyway, we'll be back for that, and then we'll of course be back for next Tuesday. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. And with that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your night. See you later, everybody. Take care. Goodbye. See ya.